there are those that say that being a good cop, the skills, the habits that make someone a good cop don't necessarily make them good parents or good partners at home and all the rest of it. How do you keep, can you keep those lives separate? Can you keep those, that level of cynicism that has to come with your job as well as it comes with my job, down to the point where you can keep those healthy relationships at home as well?
You can, I think, but you have to be very conscious of it. You have to, because like Paul said, you just resort back to a lot of things. My kids, I have 3 daughters. One of the things is they say, you're always controlling. You want to control every situation. Well, this isn't the police department. This is, you're not, because you're lawyers. I want you to be my dad. I don't want you to control my entire life. And we worry because we know of bad people who's done certain things. I was a sexual assault detective for years. And so you got to be conscious of it, and there's got to be some open communications. And you have to be able to say, I'm wrong. You really have to be able to say, you know what, I'm wrong. And we spoke earlier about on the weekends, and I'm with my significant other, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? I don't want to start dictating what we're going to do, how the day is going to go. It's important to me also because I'm relieved of my duties, I feel like. And I actually sit there and say, whatever you want to do, you please control the day. And it works out well, but you have to be conscious of how you must be all the time. And then when you go home to your family, they are not, they're your family. So.
I have 3 children. It's just my perspective on this. I was the parent that other parents would call sometimes to say, are you going to allow Danny or Megan or Shannon to go? And if I did, then the other parents would let them do certain things. I was also the parent on field trips that got the most difficult kids, and they all behaved for me. So that was a good thing as well. But just one perspective in addition to this. My son is on the job now, and just became a detective about a month ago.
That's great.
Thank you. He's doing a great job. My wife has always been very supportive of my career, and I can recall packing up the car at Friday afternoon, ready to go to Maine for the weekend. I get a call from an informant. The drugs are going to be there at 8 o'clock. It's a hard thing to tell your family we can't go till tomorrow morning. I think it takes a lot of work and some special efforts on the part of your family to understand that. And my wife tells me now that as she was worried about me during my career, but it's different now that her son, our son, is on the job. So I try.
Well, he's a blood relative, as I tell my wife.
And that is different. So yeah, much different. So.
Well, that has to be it, right? Because if we look at the suicide rate or the divorce rate, the rates are not healthy in your line of business. You really must have a supportive partner, and the kids have to understand that there are priorities here. They absolutely are a priority, but with this job comes certain imperatives that are going to get in the way on vacations or family dinners and God knows what else.
Oh, there's no question they sacrifice. There is no question. Oh yeah, the holidays, the Christmases.
Yeah.
You stop by in uniform to have Thanksgiving Day dinner for a half hour, and then you're back out on the road. It's and it is. There's no question that the family sacrifices, and it's really is so tough to sometimes turn off the job. Like you'll go home, and it's funny because my daughter 2 weeks ago drops on, can I go sleep over so-and-so's house tonight? I'm like, whoa. Who are they?
Check.
Has anybody run this by the sex offender registry? Is there anything in that area? Like, who are their neighbors? Who do they talk to? It's like, nah, time out. No, you can't do that. And she's like, oh. And you can see the look on her face. Oh, I can't do that. No, it's because we see, if you think about it, every single traumatic event that happens to any single person, who's always standing right there eventually? Right. It's a cop or a firefighter, but there's always a cop that ends up dealing with the aftermath of it. Right. And we get to see, oftentimes, the absolute worst of humanity. And it tends to skewer your opinion of certain things.
Sure.
And you tend to be a little bit more hesitant to allow your kids to go, well, I'm going to go for a walk here. Well, wait a second, which way are you going? I don't want you going up that way. I want you going this way instead. And it's like Kenny said, you end up controlling it. It's out of concern. And you try to put a check on that, but sometimes you put a check on it, sometimes you don't.
Are there services available within your departments or available to your departments for those officers that don't deal with the stress as well, that have these family issues or have some of the domestic violence issues that we see prevalent among some police officers?
Yeah, I think policing has done a much, much better job over the last 15 to 20 years, rather than either kind of ignore the problem or pretend it doesn't exist, to actually proactively now look to see what's happening. Is somebody calling in sick where they weren't before? Has a job performance dropped? I think that policing is one of the only occupations really that I think a chief has to be as concerned with the work product while they're at work and the family life, because it's one of the only jobs, frankly, that your off-duty conduct has an impact on your job. And I know in Sellon we have a very good EAP program, and I have professionals that I have the ability to refer some to, and sometimes order somebody to have to go to.
Yeah, I think, especially myself, I only have very few officers, but you know your officers, and you know when he or she aren't just acting themselves, their attitude's changed, or something about their work product has changed. They go from being very active to doing nothing day after day. You need to just look at what's going on with that particular officer. And again, we all have the EAP programs that are available, and officers tend to be more willing to go to these programs than probably when we first started out. They didn't have them, but even if they did, we probably wouldn't have attended anyways.
Is that a significant part of your job? I mean, you're the manager now, right? So you have to not just watch the budget issues, but in the personnel issues and the personal issues that your officers have, because obviously it can affect what they do out in the streets, which can affect everything that your department tries to work for.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
definitely.
It's a stressed out officer. One officer that's absolutely stressed out and hits their limit the results can be disastrous. And in the early '90s, Chicago actually came up with a computer program by the name of it was a system called Brainmaker, which actually started flagging at-risk officers depending upon certain criteria. And actually, it was quite controversial at the time, but there is a lot to be said about that. Is that are there certain red flags that are appearing, and that otherwise it needs to be dealt with quickly.
I think that one of the things that surprised me most about being chief was the amount of interpersonal connections that people would come to me with issues, maybe needing help. The other part of it is it has to be done in a confidential manner, a professional manner, and they're coming to you because they trust you. And I think that's something that if you can foster that trust with your employees, I think your organization is better for it. And as I said, I think that the state of counseling now, particularly with the peer counseling, there's stress counseling. Boston PD opens their services up to any police department. They're expert. They have a great peer counseling services. And I think it's incumbent upon a police chief to make sure that we get the best for our officers for all the right reasons.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, a leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.